Hi, it's Mrs. Marquette. In this lesson, we're going to talk about completing the square. And the two things we need to talk about for completing the square is first, what is the square of a binomial? And then two, what are we going to use it for? If we have something in this form, x squared plus 6x plus 9, we can write this with add multiply, factored as x plus 3, x plus 3, because 3 plus 3 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. But what we notice is that x plus 3 and x plus 3 are exactly the same. And we can write this as x plus 3 squared. This is actually a really nice form to see binomials in, is just something times itself, because we can solve using the square root method pretty easily. So I'll do one more of these. If we've got x squared plus 12x plus 36, again, I can rewrite this as x plus 6, x plus 6, using our add multiply. And I can rewrite this as x plus 6 squared. Thinking a little differently, if I change this positive to a negative, I could still write this as a perfect square. I just have to make it x minus 6, x minus 6. So we're going to be working with perfect square trinomials today. And the first thing that we're going to try is, say we don't know what if we nearly have a perfect square trinomial, but we don't quite know what this third number is. Could we figure out what c would have to be in order to write this as x plus something squared? So we're thinking ahead and then working backwards to see what is c. So c is going to equal something. So I want to write x squared plus 8x plus whatever c is, some number, as something times itself, x and x. And I want these two things to be exactly the same so that they add up to 8 and multiply to whatever c is. So we'll deal with c later. We want something that's exactly the same that adds up to 8. Well, what plus itself is 8? That has to be a positive 4 and a positive 4. I can really think about it like 8 divided by 2 because it has to split evenly into two pieces. So that's going to be 4. Okay. So that I can write as x plus 4 squared, which is exactly what we were looking for. That was the final product. We wanted it to be something squared. And if that's the case, could I work backwards and see what did c have to be? Well, x plus 4, 4 times 4, c actually has to be 16. So I've got to add to 8, multiply to this number. So in the end, this number c had to be that 8 divided by 2 times itself. Okay. So that's the pattern that we're going to see. Whatever that middle number is, c is going to be that number divided by 2, because I've got to split it into two pieces, and then we're going to square it. So that's kind of what this top part is talking about. They're saying if I've got x squared and bx, the way that I find c is I divide b into two pieces so that I have the two parentheses, and then I square it to get our c. So let's look at it in a few other cases. I've got x squared minus 16x plus who knows what. So let's split it up. First thing, I want it to be exactly the same. Since this is a negative, I'm probably going to need a negative and a negative to add up to a negative number. If I split up 16 evenly, negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. And then I want to square it to get c, because negative 8 times negative 8 has to multiply to that c value. So c is going to be 64, because 8 times 8 is 64. And then I can write this as x minus 8 squared. They're going to ask you for two answers as your final answer. They're saying find the value of c, that's one thing. And then they also want you to write the expression as the square of the binomial. So we've done both in numbers 1 and 2. I'm going to do just a couple more with you, and then I'll have you try a few. I'll try number 3. So this time I want to have two parentheses. This time it's y and y, because I need it to multiply to y squared. And then I still am add, multiply. So what two numbers add to negative 12? I take negative 12, divide by 2, and get 6. So, or negative 6 is really more accurate. And then to get C, I've got to know what does that number times itself equal. So negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive 36. So C is positive 36, and I can write this as y minus 6 times itself. So it's not too bad when we've got even numbers in the middle and we can easily break it up. The tricky thing is actually, let's look at number 7, when I don't have an even number in the middle. So if I've got to do x squared minus 3x plus c, I want it to add up to negative 3, and I want to multiply to c. I'll have an x and an x. I know I'm going to have a negative and a negative, but the question is, what am I going to do with that negative 3? Well, here's actually where you don't want to work too hard. I'm going to take negative 3 and divide it by 2, and I can't reduce that fraction. So really what I want you to do is write 3 over 2 and 3 over 2. When you do that, you're going to be tempted to write 1.5. Please leave it as a fraction. And then when I square it, I can actually take the square of the top and find the square of the denominator as well. So negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. 2 times 2 is 4. So my c value is actually 9 over 4. So I get x minus 3 halves squared, and c is 9 over 4. Let's maybe do one more of those that has an odd number in the middle. Take a look at number 8. X squared plus 7x plus c. I'm going to have x and x because I want it to be x and something squared. This is a positive in the middle, so I'm going to have a positive and a positive. How do I break up 7 into 2 even pieces? Well, if I go 7 divided by 2, I can't reduce that fraction, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to put 7 divided by 2. Then I can square it. When you square something, square the numerator, square the denominator, square the top, square the bottom. 7 times 7 is 49. 2 times 2 is 4. You might start seeing a pattern. C is 49 over 4. My number that's in the parentheses, so x plus or minus whatever, is always going to be something divided by 2, or the denominator will be 2 if we can't break it down, if we can't simplify. And then the c value, if we couldn't simplify, is going to be a 4. So that's a nice pattern to kind of look for. Take a quick second and try 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10, just so you know you really have a handle on this stuff. So check those answers. This one should be a 1/4. Double check. I'm going to do a new video for actually using this to solve. But I would maybe even check in with the practice problems just on these problems just to make sure that you're feeling really good about it.